Fox News senior strategic analyst. General, great to see you. Thank you for being here. Before we get into the issues Connell was dealing with, and I want to, because you know a lot about the way Russia wages war, and that's being played out, of course, now all over Ukraine. What is happening with that huge convoy, that 40-mile convoy? They appear to be stalled. What's their problem right now?
Well, the convoy was put together because the fact is they had to go into an operational pause to get logistics and move that forward, replenishment, resupplies. And then they also brought tens of thousands of additional troops that were on the Belarus side of the border. And these are reinforcing troops. Obviously, they're going to be used on Kyiv. And putting all that together took some time. They're moving still much slower than what's expected. Some of that is likely due to Ukraine resistance. Some of it's due to the flat organizational problems that these units have had. I must say, to understand this a little bit, the units that are coming out of Belarus, the Russian units there, are a hodgepodge collection of units throughout most of eastern Russia. And they were put together not as regiments and divisions, but as battalions that haven't really worked together. It was quite amazing to us, and it was one of the reasons why when we were looking at this at the Institute for the Study of War, that we didn't think that they would invade and go after Kyiv from that side, because of these organizations did not have that experience. Their strongest units are in the southern military district, and they're approaching from the south and having the most success. So there's a lot of organizational issues that they are having here. And I think most of the pace of it likely has more to do with the Russians than it does to do with the Ukrainians. And it certainly brings into question the competence of this Russian army that we see now inside of Ukraine, and also the competence of its leadership.
Well, as incompetent and disorganized as they may be, and it seems that this convoy is an example of that, we're still beginning to see a very disturbing trend, which is not unusual in the way that the Russians have dealt with war situations, frankly, since the beginning of the Soviet Union back in the last century. In Kharkiv, this wonderful town, which they just had their municipal building destroyed by a Russian missile, it appears that they're trying to surround the town. And if we think back to the days of Stalin, and frankly, I think Putin's taken a page out of his book, this is an area that was particularly disturbed in the 1930s by Stalin's attempt to starve them into submission, which was effective because he killed about 4 million Russians or Ukrainians in doing so. Are they trying to do the same thing, cut off these major cities from supplies and try to starve them into submission?
Yeah, that's the approach they're taking on Kharkiv, and that'll be the foretell of things to come. Surround the city, pummel it, bring in area attack weapons like tube and rocket artillery as opposed to precision-guided munitions, and do that indiscriminate fire, likely because they're having met so much resistance from the Ukrainians. At this point, they're less concerned about civilian casualties and international condemnation than what they were at the beginning. And that's really who they are. I mean, in Chechnya, they killed 8,000 civilians in the vicinity of Grozny over a period of weeks, using these kind of brutal tactics. In Syria, in Aleppo and Idlib province, carpet bombing in major neighborhoods and cities, taking down entire towns and villages, actually using deep penetrator bombs to blow up underground hospitals, all in violation of international order and certainly international criminal activity. This is who they really are. And they were husbanding those resources early on. So they're going to unleash them now. And also at Kyiv, the encirclement, they've arrived a little bit to the northwest of the city of Kyiv, in the vicinity of Hostomel airfield, which was under contention back and forth a number of times. And they're going to begin that encirclement of Kyiv from the west. And they have the 76th Airborne Division, elements of the Airborne Division, excuse me, one regiment who's in the lead of that. And it's not surprising that they have some of their best troops up front to lead this encirclement. That will take some time because certainly it's going to be resisted by the Ukrainians, and then we'll see them do what likely is unfolding in Kyiv. Again, area attack weapons to pummel the city, which certainly will drive up the civilian casualties, and it'd be quite horrific for the people there. Certainly.
Well, General, I understand that your rationale against creating a no-fly zone, because that would essentially could lead us to World War III. On the other hand, the world cannot just sit back and watch the forced starvation of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Ukrainians. I mean, what can we do to get to those people in need there?
Well, what the Ukrainians are wanting is certainly they want more weapons to be able to stay in the fight. And certainly we should be making an earnest effort to do that. I'm assuming we are. I've been frustrated with the administration right from the beginning, going all the way back to March of 21, 70,000 troops on the border there. And what the administration did is they delayed the shipment of arms and ammunition because of they didn't want to provoke Putin's forces. That make any sense whatsoever. They delayed it till August. And so we have never given them down that shopping list of things that they really need. And they want more than anti-tank weapons. They wanted air defense weapons, which we just started to give, I understand, recently. They want an integrated air defense, which is a system of air defense weapons, not just shoulder-fired, artillery, mortars. Yes. So much of that could have been put in their hands before now. Where we are now, I mean, it is frustrating to look at that convoy and know what could be done to that with U.S. air power, for sure. Oh, anybody looking at that knows what the answer is.
Yeah, I mean, there's 40 miles of sitting ducks that could be taken out. But again, now, that would put ourselves in a position of
leads to war.
Hand to hand. That leads to World War III. I just want to ask about another country and what they are doing in the midst of all this, and that is China. They've been playing this strange game of one day they seem to be pro-Russia, another day they seem to be anti-Russia. I mean, what is Xi up to? There was a lot of speculation that China would act as the bank after sanctions were kicked in, which they have been more and more. Now it looks like China's back now. Is Xi just waiting this out to see how the world responds to Putin before he kind of uses it as cover for his own means?
Yeah, I pretty much think so. I mean, he hasn't endorsed, he hasn't condemned. They've been looking for some kind of a negotiation solution to this. He's taken a middle-of-the-road position. I think his real stripes are that he is cheering on Russia because, in a sense, at the strategic level, they are attacking the international world order as we know it. They are trying to change the balance of power in Europe, for certain. And President Xi has similar issues himself in the Indo-Pacific region, and they really want unanimity on the Eurasian continent because they have national interests that are of mutual benefit to each other. Yeah. So I think he'll be silent in the condemnation, cheering him on privately, but also as the world gathers around in the support of the Ukrainians, David, I got to believe that that's going to have some impact on him.
I think
and
so.
Also in terms of the options he may be pursuing after he gets enshrined at the National Party Congress in November, in terms of his pursuit of Taiwan. This may be one of the better buffers against an operation dealing with Taiwan, based on how the world is now reacting to what has taken place in Ukraine. It's an interesting phenomenon, one that I had not forecasted would take place, but certainly the world is coming to the side of Zelensky and the Ukrainian people. And I'm absolutely astounded, David, that the Russians, whose cyber offensive capability is comparable to the United States, and ours is quite eye-watering, to be frank about it, that the internet is operating, the power is on, the telecommunication systems are operating, the water is being distributed. I'm stunned by all of that. And he has given the platform of information to Zelensky and the Ukrainian people, knowing full well how much information operations are important to him, Putin, in creating his narrative. So that is something that people are certainly mystified by why they haven't been successful at that.
Yeah.
Given all the other problems they were having as well.
By the way, there's another question about information, whether the Ukrainians that we're working with to help them in their fight against Russia are getting real-time intel from us, from the United States. Senator Sass and some others had said that they weren't getting real-time information. The administration is now pushing back, saying, yes, we have been giving them real-time information. Do you know the truth here?
No, what I understand is we're doing everything we can to give them up-to-date information. The other thing is there is an option that could be pursued, and it's fraught with risk, but the president could ask his national security team, and hopefully he already has. He said, ask him and said, listen, what can we do to help the Ukraine resistance? What kind of covert operations could we possibly do, and lay out what the risks are in doing those things? We have significant capacity here with the Central Intelligence Agency and also some aspects of DOD and what we can do. Can't get into the specifics, but yes, there are options there as well, all with associated risks, to be sure.
Yeah, a lot of risks, but we got to do what we can to help those people there. General, thank you so much. God bless you. I appreciate you being here.